Hi everyone, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And we have a special guest with us today, Michel. He's a film critic for the Boston Phoenix.
I'm with the Boston Phoenix and the Boston Herald these
days.
And
the Boston Herald. And today we're going to talk about Sherlock Holmes, Youth in Revolt, and Broken Embraces, the new Pedro Almodóvar film.
And let's be very specific. It's Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes, not to be confused with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, there's a for sure distinction there.
Well, you make that big distinction, and
I have to make that distinction.
All right, but tell people why, because I think it's a good argument about why it's a Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movie.
Because it, by all rights, should not have been called Sherlock Holmes. I actually enjoy the film. I've seen it twice now. I was able to enjoy it more on second viewing once I had gotten past my initial hurdle of this being Sherlock Holmes that I was supposedly watching. Sherlock Holmes, the Guy Ritchie pugilist version.
Oh, you do? You get, he has his moments.
He's very much a thinking man. He's thinking 10 steps ahead even when he's fighting, but that's the whole thing. He's a brawler.
First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, will attempt wild haymaker. Weaken right jaw. Now fracture. Break cracked ribs. Heel kick to diaphragm. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery 6 weeks. Full psychological recovery 6 months. Capacity to spit it back of head neutralized.
Bare knuckle, bare chested brawler, and
so if you're a Guy Ritchie fan, you get that.
You get that. But if you're an Arthur Conan Doyle fan, then you'll be maybe running for the exit.
It made me wonder if there was anything about Sherlock Holmes that involved this kind of fighting, this kind of action.
The short answer? No.
Well, it's interesting the way there are moments in the movie that just seem to be there to remind you're at a Sherlock Holmes movie.
Watson, as a character, is the Watson from the page.
Played by Jude Law.
Played by Jude Law.
And those are 2 terrific performances. They really,
we should say it's Robert Downey Jr. who
is really good, performance-wise. It's like he inhibits this character. He seems to be able to inhibit characters effortlessly, and very well. Very well.
He inhabits.
Well, I got to tell you,
inhibiting. If you inhibit a character, it's really not going to help your performance at all.
But he inhabits people.
Well, how well did the 2 of you know the Holmes from the page in any of his incarnations?
I just started reading the stories, but I always liked Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. That was, to me, Sherlock Holmes from the movies, the old black and white movies. Yeah. So that's what Holmes was to me. And when I read the books, that's what I think about.
Those movies get the Watson character in the films, and Nigel Bruce was not Conan Doyle's Watson. So it's funny, if you had taken the Watson from this film and combined it with the Holmes from those old Rathbone pictures.
But it didn't, your argument that it's not a Holmes or Conan Doyle Holmes didn't spoil your enjoyment of the movie.
Not enough to be fatal. Again, I almost... No. I enjoy the picture for what it is, and I think script-wise, it's a tight script. It's got enough wit to it. The mystery works well enough, although I don't know if we want to discuss a particular
go ahead.
Plot mechanic.
About the show, we do spoil things. There's
especially people's enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah, we do people's enjoyment of the movie, but we do go ahead. There's
like most modern movies.
So when you're listening, take that, be careful with a little because we are going to go ahead and talk about
with
stuff.
You here on the way here.
I think it's preferable, like if people, see the film and come and listen to the podcast, then they get a fuller discussion as opposed to being inhibited. with spoilers.
Okay, well, here we go. You
Go for it.
You may be aware that there are hints in the Conan Doyle books of a cocaine addiction, which Nicholas Meyer, when he wrote the 7% Solution, which he later turned into a film,
Right.
and he directed, he put the cocaine addiction front and center there. It's unique to have that aspect of the character, and in this new film, Holmes does seem to be toying with different drugs. At one point, he's
You know the stuff you're swallowing is meant for eye operations.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
He's basically secluded himself for 2 weeks.
So that's interesting because Downey can obviously play the addiction thing pretty well.
True.
Did you have trouble? This is something I didn't have so much trouble. I've seen it twice now. And the first time, it was just Downey mumbles a bit. Or at least at first it sounded like he was mumbling a bit to me. Like his delivery is low-key and fast.
Yeah.
On a lot of good punchlines, which takes a while to get used to, I think. And again, it's not, I don't know if it's just the way his take on the character. I don't think it's a Conan Doyle
It could
versus.
also be the sound mix at the theater, frankly.
Yeah.
Which would not surprise me.
Yeah.
There was a slight focus problem again last night.
And sound
No,
mix,
there's
too.
always a focus problem.
Boston Common's got to take care of that. They really do.
When you talk about, let's say, all right, so we've got a Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes. What do you think he brings that's positive to this? I mean, did you find it? The only time I really was annoyed is there's a scene where the camera revolves around, this way up, and it's during a chase scene, and you're just like, there's no need for that. It's just Ritchie showing off. Look what I can do.
I see what you're saying there, but he does bring a certain style to those fight scenes, and I loved the way when the character was coming back to their senses as the camera would tilt around and come in.
Well, that's done with sound too.
He does some really cool stuff.
He did have at least one David Fincher moment in the film too, which I really noticed last night when the camera moved basically through the underside of a horse-drawn carriage. It was just a traveling shot that was impossible to actually physically shoot.
Right.
So just logistically, they would have had to have built a carriage that would separate to allow for the camera to pass through it. And it's just stuff. It's showy.
Yeah.
It's showy, but it's designed to be invisible. But if you watch enough movies, you watch a shot like this transpire, and it's really kind of pointless. It's just you're doing it to do it.
Right.
Well, they're taking a lot of time on these second unit insert shots,
What do you mean second unit insert shot?
Well, it's a shot that may not necessarily include the main characters, so you have your second unit will take the time to, film, the outside of the building or establishing shot in the hallway or some little thing like that. And when, and when there's a little bit of artistry like that, that's like, it's like a little thingy that puts a stamp on something that says, well, this is quality. We're taking our time with each little thing.
It's a really well photographed film. I believe it was Philippe Rousselot who shot the picture, and it's really well photographed. I think the integration of the CG elements could have been cooked a little bit longer.
The CG was actually really cool. I loved the CG about in this case in Sherlock Holmes. It's about creating that. What's the time frame here? Like 1890.
But it doesn't.
Something like that.
Whenever they're doing the more expansive shots, when you see like the construction of the London Bridge, it doesn't read to my eye as being real.
Or the CG in the boat
the giant
construction
ship,
line, the giant ship, dock sequence.
You compare the work, the post effects done on a film like this to what was done on, say, The Road, which I think the extra year they had to cook that film. The establishing shots in that movie looked really terrific, I thought, and didn't look like they were processed. I mean, it was interesting in this movie, in Sherlock Holmes, they're shooting day for night at one point. Day for night, to me, always looks like day for night. Even now with digital technology, it's like, well, they're riding a boat down the river, and that's clearly sunlight that's hitting the water and them. And yet you've replaced it very well with, a moonlit sky, but it still just does not look
real.
Right.
Yeah. But not enough. I think again, I'm having so much fun following them that I'm not that pulled out of the story by stuff like that. You know, and I think one of the things that really saves the movie is the banter between Holmes and Watson.
Right. No, and that's really strong.
He was great. It really carries it.
And again, that has at least the feeling of the text on the page.
Right, right.
Although there is a distinct homoeroticism at play in this film.
No. No, don't say that.
With any of those
Oh boy.
Just a little.
oily, muscled, close-up
Oh, no,
shots?
I said it was distinct.
Yeah, the way they bicker about, you know, you're wearing my clothes and you're, you know.
Why I ever believed that I would get to have tea with Mary's parents is beyond me, having been talked into going with you.
We were set upon, man. It was self-defense.
I've been reviewing my notes on our exploits over the last 7 months. Would you like to know my conclusion? I am psychologically disturbed.
How so?
Why else would I continually be led into situations where you deliberately withhold your plans from me?
You've never complained about my methods before.
I never complain. When do I complain about you practicing the violin at 3 in the morning? Or your mess? Your general lack of hygiene? Or the fact that you steal my clothes?
I understand.
Do you?
What you need is to rest. My brother Mycroft has a small estate near Chichester. Beautiful grounds. There's a folly. Throw a lamb on the spit.
Holmes, if I were to go to the country, it would be with my future wife.
Well, certainly if we must.
No, not
have her
you,
along.
Mary and I. You are not...
What? Invited? Why would I not be invited to my own brother's country home? Watson, now you're not making any sense.
You're not human.
Well, they have a lot of fun with it because
Right.
you have Watson is pre-engaged to this woman Mary.
And Holmes is upset.
It's very,
Yeah.
very.
He's losing his roommate, his bunkie, his pal, the good doctor. But I think that adds something. I never got the feeling that Nigel Bruce and Basil Rathbone were that close as Holmes and Watson.
No, I think that's something else that Ritchie is bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Which was a nice modern touch.
When you talk about Holmes villains, or just movie villains in general, for this you've got...
Lord Blackwood.
Yes, but it's Mark Strong, who plays Lord Blackwood.
Mark Strong, the villain of choice for everyone these days.
What else has he been in?
Recently, well, he's done. He's actually been in a few pictures recently.
But he's a good bad guy.
He is
a
but
good
he's
bad guy.
ultimately not
I wouldn't say
the
he's
villain of the piece. The villain is Moriarty, who's a classic Holmes villain,
Right.
who is present throughout this entire film, but he's in the shadows. And,
Right.
You know,
Sequel?
well,
it is
Yeah.
going in that direction. And the movie
But
should
that's-
do well enough to, I would
Moriarty
think,
is
get
the
a sequel.
classic Holmes villain, so they thread that throughout to just establish him as the intellectual match of Holmes, if not more so.
Right, right.
And they keep him in the shadows throughout the film, so we don't really know who the actor is. He's not credited. There's been internet chatter as to who it possibly may have been. Have you guys?
No, I haven't heard. But I
Okay.
will say, what
There
I do
was-
like
there
about
was
this film is...
speculation.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, there's speculation that Brad Pitt is
I
Moriarty.
haven't heard that.
And now, hearing the voice again last night, I just don't hear it unless it's been processed so much.
Well, and by the time they get around to a sequel, even if it's a year from now, no one's going to remember what he sounded like in the original. They'll just have anyone, it
right,
could
you
be
could
anyone.
have anyone do it.
Something,
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to do a quick setup just to give a summary of the film.
Well,
but-
before we do that, did want to talk about the Rachel McAdams, who wasn't in the movie enough for me. I know it's a Holmes and Watson story, fine. I liked the time she was in the movie, though. I think she was a good foil for what Downey was doing.
And while I was setting the table, I found this. A file with my name on it.
I was simply studying your methods, should the authorities ask me to hunt you down.
But I don't see my name in any of these articles.
But your signature was clear. Is that the Maharaja's missing diamond? Or just another souvenir?
Let's not dwell on the past. Shall we? Now, by the looks of things, I'd say you're between jobs.
And you between husbands.
He was boring and jealous, and he snored. I'm Irene Adler again. Thank you. I need your help. I need you to find someone. Why are you always so suspicious?
Shall I answer chronologically or alphabetically?
Careful not to cut yourself on this lethal envelope.
Irene Adler, the woman according to Holmes. You know, the one who outsmarted him on what case? Do you remember the story she was in? Yeah. We won't even bother editing that in. We'll just leave it for people to... What's the email address?
She has previously outsmarted Holmes.
Yeah, what's the email address?
And if anyone can figure out her
if anybody wants to key us in on that one, it's postmovieshow@gmail.com.
Right, so if they want to play a game of one-upsmanship and tell me what I don't remember, fine. What Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle story was Irene Adler in?
and please, if anyone wants to try and guess her character's nationality in this film.
Yeah, we were trying
to figure that one out. I don't think she's a well-established character. She does,
Maybe she's from Canada.
That's it. Yeah, she's Canadian.
Because, well, Rachel McAdams.
Right.
There's a lack of character development on her part.
Okay, but there is, and that's why I wanted to see more of her. But I think she does great with what she does.
She is a mysterious character, and we do know that she is someone who is she's effectively a criminal.
Right. Proudly too.
Probably a murderess.
And so I liked her. One of the things that annoyed me, and I only realized it. I realized it more on the second viewing was there's a dog. A bulldog that it's Holmes and Watson jointly own another one of those homoerotic things with their dog. They start dividing up their property.
And every time you cut to the dog, it gets a laugh.
But that's just it. They cut to the dog.
It should have been a Chihuahua.
They just cut to the dog like for reaction shots and for a fart. It's like in the middle of this, it's Sherlock Holmes, it's Guy Ritchie. There's a dog fart joke.
Clint Eastwood already did that.
But I think, honestly, that encapsulates really what this film is. It is not the Conan Doyle.
You got some explaining to do, Wilson.
Hey, it is not Conan Doyle's Holmes. It is the Guy Ritchie
so broad,
Holmes, and you have this discussion going on. It's between the woman who will become Watson's fiancée, Mary,
right,
and Holmes. They're having a conversation. It is what I guess you guys would refer to as a wine and cheese.
It's an example of Holmes's incredible deductive abilities.
It is interrupted by a fart. I mean, I think that's it right there. That shows you what this movie is.
Yes, Arthur Conan Doyle never wrote the word fart in his literature.
Probably not. No, I think it would have been poot.
Poot.
Well, I did
yield poot.
I did like the sort of the black magic aspect of the film and Lord.
Well, but is there
Blackwood?
magic?
Well, we're supposed to think so.
Well, we're not. Holmes proves unequivocally that there is no...
up until that point.
Right.
Up until that point. But, so the setup is Lord Blackwood has convinced everyone that he has been killed, that he has been effectively hung, and Dr. Watson has pronounced him dead.
It really is a homoerotic.
Yeah. He's effectively hung.
That's what he is effectively hung.
Right. He's convicted of murdering 5 women. He's hung by the neck until dead. Watson proclaims him dead. Then he supposedly rises from the dead.
A day or two later, his grave is, imploded or exploded.
Wow, he's just like
the concrete
Christ.
is blown off, and he is
rising from the grave at Easter.
Risen from the grave and walking through the graveyard, apparently.
But luckily, but they do find a red-headed, toothless midget / dwarf in the coffin.
Right, the ginger midget.
But that's what's supposed to be this overhanging threat or fear everyone's feeling that, Blackwood has risen from the grave. One of the fun parts about the movie is that the first time it's all a mystery and it gets solved, which is fine. The second time you watch it, you get to watch more, you concentrate more on how Holmes does it. The little clues he finds along the way, like, if you see him licking a rock, the first time you're like, well, he's just licking a rock.
Yeah, Guy
But then
Ritchie
you
does
see
do
him-
that very well.
The
He
pacing
has,
of it works well.
Yeah, the pacing, and he has these very quick flashbacks, which I call slashbacks. They're like, like violent flashbacks. That, like when he says this about what's all the things in the room. You get the really the slashy noises and the drug trays or the little gun pieces or the little clues and stuff like that. All quickly.
Yeah, like a flash of light.
Edited,
Well, they flash the frame.
into like
Yeah, so you get the
instantaneous
overexposed
flashbacks.
moments.
So it's a good piece of editing.
When I first saw the trailer for this picture, the initial trailer, that was a distressing experience.
Why?
Because it looks like a Michael Bay picture. Explosions everywhere. It's like, why is London exploding at the turn of the century? I don't understand what's blowing up everywhere. And even in the film...
So you weren't like, I want to see that.
Shit blows up. I got to see that.
I don't know. I'm just not 15 anymore.
You never lose that.
The crazy blue cat people, they just don't have much of an effect on me these days. Sure, they're doing some fun effects work when there's a dock that's exploding in slow motion.
Right.
But, that's getting away from the detective aspect of the character. It's certainly fun to watch. They're in Jeopardy.
But I think, again, they're trying to sell it to an audience who don't know Sherlock Holmes, who don't know Arthur Conan Doyle.
It's a very propulsive film. It moves very quickly, even though it's I think, a little over 2 hours. What's ultimately at stake in this movie is a future technology that can change the course of the world.
Yeah,
and the ultimate villain, Moriarty, who's working behind within the shadows in the picture, is really trying to get his hands on this technology that I just think does not need to be in the film. Certainly doesn't need to be in the film.
Right.
And if we want to get into the particulars of this, for those of you who haven't seen the film, probably come back to this later. But
it's and there's actually Lord Blackwood is good at there's a modern day connection here with using fear to manipulate people and using advanced technology as it was for that time.
Yeah, it's using fear to manipulate
create a smoke
people.
and mirror show
It's like religion
to get what you want.
But anyway.
But you don't think the device that they're ultimately after...
Well, there is a remote-controlled device that works with radio waves. So there is a scene, it's the climax of the film, where Parliament is going to be gassed. And you've got Lord Blackwood has this remote-controlled device that he's going to use to release the gas. And quite frankly, it's wholly unnecessary. The gas is being released from, the bowels under Parliament, and someone could have just simply turned the machine on down there.
Yeah,
because
if there was one thing that the movie lacks is its climax is not so incredible. It moves on to other stuff. It's not like incredibly.
Well, the climax is really there to set up another film,
right?
Which I would like to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think if this film, it's being released and during the very busy Christmas season, I'd like to think it's going to find its audience. Seems like
I want to see it knock Avatar off the top.
Yeah,
it should do well. It should do well. Would you pay $10 for it?
Certainly.
John, would you?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I'd
you really dig the film.
I'd
I
pay
would
$10
too.
and see it a third time.
I'd say go for it then.
Certainly, and we were at a screening last night, and it was a sold out screening.
Yeah.
Avatar last week, the night before opening, it wasn't filled up.
Mateo, dime algo.
Mateo ha muerto.
Almodóvar's Broken Embraces, I think it's one of the more beautiful films I've seen. It's the story of a writer who goes by the pseudonym Harry Kane, and he's gone blind, and he's in the process of writing a screenplay which he hopes to get produced. And he goes to a wealthy investor who happens to be seeing Penelope Cruz Lena. And so the film goes into production, and this wealthy investor has a strange son who is documenting all aspects of the production with a video camera. And the investor fella watches all of this footage, and he becomes concerned that there's a relationship developing between Lena and Matteo, Harry Kane. So we see this. It's kind of a voyeurist thing going on here, where this strange kid is filming everything.
That's what cinema is,
and
Steve.
The investor
It's a voyeur's
is getting
paradise.
paranoid as to what's happening here.
I don't think it's a movie you can sum up that quickly.
That was a hard
It was.
thing to sum
It
up.
was, and you deserve credit, but you can't. You can explain what happens on and on and on and on. But I think one of the joys of watching the movie is watching it happen, watching it all, because it switches back and forth from times. Because first he's Harry Kane, the blind writer, then he's Matteo, the seeing director. I think it's one of Almodóvar's.
Almodóvar.
Yeah, we'll cue you when we need to say it. It's one of
Almodóvar.
It's a classic film of his because the story is very complex.
And his execution of the story, he's so precise, and it's fun to watch how he frames things, how he blocks things. His production design, the color, all the little things. It's
that was
terrific.
something I was wondering watching it. I've always enjoyed the vibrancy of his movies. Everything pops. This one to me didn't pop as much.
Really?
Yeah, I thought
He's working with a relatively new DP for him. It's a Mexican, or I could say Mexican.
Mexican's fine. We'll overdub all the translations later.
It's the textures. It's beautifully photographed.
See, every other film I've seen of his has wowed me visually, and this one
sounds like you're being wowed more by the production design.
Maybe
because he uses a lot of primary colors.
Yeah,
and really puts them out there.
And especially in this
designer.
film with the production design, the movie sets, the heightened reality of the movie that they're trying to make, which is sort of a debacle, and then Matteo's house, even the scenes at I forget the guy's name, the older fellow's mansion where Penelope Cruz's character lives, just all the scenes in that mansion, and even particularly the scenes where they're sleeping together. They have that great scene where,
with the boobs.
Yeah, yes, that's always a good scene. Where she,
I just wanted to see how long I could go without
he kind of puts one over on her, thinking that they've just made love, and he's laying in bed, possibly dead, but sort of tricking her. That is really well photographed.
I wouldn't really say they made love there either, though. I don't think what the two of them have I would consider to be. That was
sex.
That was not much love in that relationship.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, do you think I don't know, there's something missing.
Bad sex, too, I have to add.
Well, there's something missing for me in this movie. And I don't, again, we've already established it's very complicated. And I enjoyed the mental process. There's something missing in it. I didn't become emotionally involved.
No, I don't think it has the passion that some of his best work does. And Pedro, for those of you who don't know his pictures, they're melodramas.
Right.
And with everything that word brings, you get into very soapy territory, but I think it transcends what you think of as soap at his best. And I don't think this film is his best. He's got some really great performances in here, but I think on a script level, this movie isn't up there with his best pictures.
And they aren't emotion-filled performances. A lot of it is Matteo's narration, and he's not an incredibly
There are
it has its
very
moments.
emotionally driven performances. I think just as a viewer, you might not engage with these people and their relationships as much as you may have with some of Almodóvar's.
But what this movie is
pictures.
going to do is it's going to make a lover of the art of film happy. You know, the transitions.
In what way?
The setups. Well, I like the way he moves from scene to scene, the way the camera moves, the way it twists in the stairwells, the camera follows the shapes that he's recording, that he's filming. The just as Brett was saying earlier, the vibrancy of the production design, the paintings, and the you know, I think at least I did. I spent as much time looking at these large canvases of guns that are in this guy's library on either side of his desk that say something about him, and you're thinking, wow, this is some terrific art here, but it's got so much character and it says something about him. And then you get to the movie sets, which when you see Penelope Cruz in these sort of gumball-y, polka-dotty sort of primary colored sets, it's fun to watch. You know, it's.
I think that's it. I like your point, because I think that's one of the things I had trouble with in the movie, is that I'd look at these things and get pulled out of the story. You know, I would look at the pictures of these guns. He's like, just paintings or.
They're symbolic, John.
Well,
so the production.
I guess that's what I'm missing here. Is that I see the guns and I'm looking at the guns and I've lost track of what's going on. I'm not making that connection of the symbolism.
It reminded me in a way of A Clockwork Orange and the use of production design there, and art in the film.
I didn't get that.
Two different films, but it was just something that I thought.
I'm not sure I would have ever connected Pedro to Stanley Kubrick.
But do you think that remember the film he did, Live Flesh? Was it Live Flesh?
One of his movies.
Right. It was one of Pedro's movies. And I remember talking to a reviewer, and there's a scene where there's a couple making love on a couch. Mm-hmm. And this reviewer went on and on about how in the background on the TV was a documentary about Franco, and that this was a big, this was symbolic of this, that, and the other thing in the movie. And I was like, there's people screwing on the couch. I didn't even know the TV was on. There's two beautiful naked people on the couch. There's a TV. And this guy went on for paragraphs in his review about what the fact that documentary was on meant to the overall movie.
And it's actually a perfectly valid observation.
It is. Okay, it's a perfectly valid observation, but it's, I think, equally valid to ignore in terms of enjoying the movie.
You make a point. You make a good point.
It could be that I'm just low.
You like it a 6?
I like it a 6.
You like it a 6?
Yes, of course I do. But I think that's something maybe, again, that I'm either not investing the time in or not aware of, or the director's not making it clear to me the symbolism of the guns on the wall and all that.
Well, they're background details, and they're there for you to discover if you want to discover them.
Right. Okay.
It's a slow burning movie. I mean, people who appear to be nice, you can kind of get that there's something wrong.
It is
something
a slow burning movie, and it never quite
happen,
ignites like some of his other pictures.
Right.
Yeah. True.
It smolders.
It does have.
That's a good one. It smolders.
There are some very surprising moments.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please. An announcement.
Oh, first, let me wing this.
Oh God.
Oh, just a short comment here. We are going to spoil an aspect of the movie, so let me cut that out.
Actually, Steve's going to spoil an aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
Warning! Before you listen to this, Steve will give away the best parts.
Let me rephrase it. Help me out, Paul. Just a quick warning here, everyone. I am about to spoil some of the movies, so if you want to fast forward.
And again, if you'd like to complain through email about Steve spoiling the movies, it is...
Sometimes it takes a spoiler to make a point.
That should be on a T-shirt. What's the email again?
postmovieshow@gmail.com. and there are a couple of good reveals with
The boobs.
the boobs, and
Good.
the strange kid who's photographing this stuff, Ray X,
Oh yeah.
and how he plays into what happens here, and the spoiler. Be warned here, is that
You're not going to tell, are you? Go
well,
ahead.
I
Don't
was
spoil it.
disappointed, but it's a very impressionable scene where Penelope Cruz's character Elena buys it rather quickly and jarringly, and in the moments after when it, yeah, well, you know, we've at that point in the movie come to really
She purchases the farm.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
you know, Mateo is so in love with her, and Almodóvar, Brett,
Sorry, I'm shortening
has done
it.
such a good job at establishing, you know, her character and their relationship that you really feel the loss sitting there. You know, that you're like, Jesus, I really wanted to see this develop. But he uses a way to, you know, to bring her back with the flashbacks, and you know, Mateo has the inspiration to go back and finish this film, that because the older fella found out about this relationship and went nuts, you know, he obviously pulled the money on the production and it didn't happen, you know, and it could have been. Is that what?
Oh,
that what he did?
no, they finished the production.
Yeah. He.
Oh, right.
he was-
well,
he was forced.
But it was not what he wanted. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. It was not the movie that he wanted, and
Which he
goes
never
back
even
to,
knew.
Well, he never saw
Yeah.
it.
No.
I think, yeah, even so much as how the film was being sold, you know. So he goes back and he finishes it, having to look at the footage of the woman that he loved, and he has to go back and edit that, which I can imagine was pretty painful. But it also,
But that's from the denouement of the film. You're giving away the ending. The emotional climax, the release.
Yikes.
I'm trying to make the point that Almodóvar does a terrific job in explaining, in showing us what Mateo's going through. This huge emotional thing that's happened to him.
See, I didn't feel that huge emotional thing at all.
No, I could appreciate it from a script standpoint of what he was trying to do. I don't think he quite pulled it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I didn't. That was my whole problem with the film. It just didn't. I could see what it was trying to get me to feel, and I wasn't feeling it. Just didn't work for me.
I'll be the first to admit I've become wrapped up in enough of his films where I release some tears.
Hey, it's okay, but
No, but this one did not hit me on that level.
One thing we had talked about. I saw it at Boston Common, and this movie's in Spanish. There are subtitles, and the subtitles were not in focus. No. And that's something. That's a problem. We've talked about comments before, but they were readable, but they're blurry.
The particular house that we're in does have an issue with keeping the entire frame in focus. They can focus either. They
Three
can
quarters.
Right, but they'll either have lost the focus at the top of the frame or the bottom of the frame. And I think if you're showing a film with
Subtitles.
you probably want to err on the side of.
But how does that happen? How can they get only part of the movie in focus?
Part of that is the way that theater is set up. They're projecting downward.
Right.
I think obviously it could be corrected with the lens. But
yeah,
they
that's what
would
we were
need
saying.
to actually purchase
they've got
another
a
lens. There's a number of issues with that theater. There's probably we could do a whole show.
Well, doesn't this open to Kindle?
Yeah.
So they'll take care of it.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Most theaters have their projection issues in one way or another. But by all means, see this in the theater because Pedro needs your
Well,
money.
you make a good point about it not being as emotional as his other.
Well, I thought you were all wrapped up in it. I thought it worked.
Well,
for
I
you.
was, but the characters are the Harry Crane Mateo character is. If there's a fault, I had trouble following his switching between Harry Crane narrating Harry Kane narrating and Mateo. So it's like this, then that. It's whichever, you know.
But
one minute he's seeing, the next minute he's, you know, needing some help to walk across the room. I don't know.
I didn't have trouble following, you know, and even they did a nice job of switching between his ages, too, visually. Mm-hmm. His hair was actually very well done. You know, different levels of baldness on him between the years.
It's a recommendation. Would you pay $10 to see it?
I would, you know, blindly, you know, yes, Harry's blind, but still, I would blindly pay to see any Almodóvar picture. I think even at his worst, and this is certainly not his worst, but it's also not his best, I would see anything he does.
yeah, I'm the same way, and it's just because I've enjoyed what he does, even like when he's not. He's one of those directors. It's not good, but it's better than so much else you'll see. I would pay to see it again.
I say we let the kid do the dishes. You and I retire to the master bedroom.
Mom, do you think it's a puppy love thing with Jerry, or is he someone that I can look forward to having around for years to come?
I timidly present Youth and Revolt to John and Brett. And I digged this movie, man. I digged it. And I'm going to tell you.
Why?
They gave me a hat.
Get that out right. Yeah.
I have a nice warm hat that I get to wear all winter. It says Youth and Revolt on it.
Make you feel young
and revolting.
I digged it.
All right, what's it about?
It's Michael Cera plays Nick Twisp, and he lives in Nowheresville, California, with his mom, played by Jean Smart. And he's looking for a way out of it. What?
Is that in Southern California?
Southern.
Northern California?
Southern, northern, middle, somewhere.
It's Nowheresville.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He is looking to get out of this humdrum life that he's been somehow born into. And his mom is dating.
Just looking to get laid.
He's dating.
Isn't he?
She's dating this guy Jerry, played by Zach Galifianakis, who is a not so reputable character, but very funny. At least I thought so. Yeah. So anyway, Jerry has
not
this.
Not as funny as in The Hangover, though.
True.
One sec, though. We're not just. Let's just give a couple of sentences what the movie's about, because we're just telling the plot.
Right.
So we can. We're really anxious to beat up on you about this.
Okay.
So.
All right. Getting right to it. Okay. So, can you edit it? Sorry.
No, leave it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
So they hightail it to a trailer park in Northern California in order to escape the forthcoming beating, and Nick meets Sheenie, who is like the perfect girlfriend. And she has some very religious parents, and she reveals to Nick that she'd like a guy who is a bit more dangerous. So Nick invents this alternate character, which is in sort of, maybe something's going on psychologically with him. He invents this character called Francois Dillinger, who will do everything that Nick won't. And he basically, in order to create a reason to move back to the trailer park with Sheenie, blows a few things up back in Nowheresville. And I guess we can take it from there.
Nick does or Francois?
Francois does. Francois
I'm still unclear
encourages Nick to.
Well, there's a reason you're unclear, because even with the fake porno mustache, it's still Michael Cera. Mm-hmm. And there's virtually no distinction between Nick Twisp and Francois Dillinger, at least as far as I could tell.
Dillinger?
Yeah, it's just...
But I think the audience knows this. They know that Francois Dillinger is Michael Cera having fun as this character, and that's why it's funny.
Funny?
Yeah, I disagree with the funny part. I agree, though. I don't think they're trying to set up any big psychological drama, that this is a real alter ego or anything like that. But, and he's not, Francois Dillinger is not in the movie that much, so you're not really ever confused, I think. But I have trouble with Michael Cera because he's the same in everything. And it's just wearing thin on me. And so when he tries to be this different character, I'm not buying it. I just don't see anything there that's remotely funny.
Yeah, he is suffering from a bit of the Jack Black syndrome, except, Jack Black has that excess of charisma where he really just beats you over the head with his personality, whereas you have the anti-Jack Blackness of Michael Cera, where he's the wallflower. He sort of recedes. He just sort of mutters his lines, and it's worked very well in some films, but I think now that we've seen him in more and more, we see the limited range of his as an actor. I would recommend, I won't recommend this picture.
It's funny. I mean, I guess if you're not sick of Michael Cera, I'm not sick of it.
Well, I think it's not just that. I don't think there's a consistency of tone in this film. It really feels directionless.
There's some great characters in this film. Steve Buscemi is well cast as the father. Fred Willard as the hysterical neighbor who will do anything to help the less fortunate.
It never pulls together into a cohesive.
It's just supposed to be funny. It's just, if people want to laugh, this movie will make you laugh.
Well, I think one of my problems is Cera needs someone to play off. When he's got a good sparring partner, it works. When he's got, and for Superbad, it was that guy who was in Superbad. Come on, the big guy,
Michael Mintz.
No.
Michael,
mini Seth Rogen.
The mini Seth Rogen. When he was in Nick and Nora's Ultimate Playlist, it was Nora, who I can't remember either.
See, I wasn't huge on that.
See, I like that a lot, but I think
Superbad I thought was terrific.
I think it's important for Cera to have someone to bounce the ball with, to throw his line, to balance out what he's doing. And in Francois Dillinger, he's playing with himself, and it doesn't work.
Well, there's VJ, his friend who goes with him to the girls' school after
such a minor part of the picture.
It culminated in a hysterical scene in the girls' dorm. That was funny stuff.
I don't think so. Part of the problem for me was in the role of Sheeny is newcomer Portia Doubleday, and didn't get anything from her.
Yeah, I know, Steve. I'm sorry you referred to her as the perfect girlfriend, but it wouldn't be for me.
Like a dream girlfriend. His dream girlfriend.
His.
He's a horny adolescent who has never been laid. Anything that talks back to him is his perfect girlfriend.
Would have been his perfect girlfriend. This is true.
And I don't find anything. She's nothing special as far as a performance goes. She's sort of attractive, and she's acting sort of sexy, but it doesn't pull together as anything. I don't see the drive except for that he's really anxious to get laid. But having said,
there's nothing wrong, and it's a movie to have fun with.
I did like the you mentioned some of the other
Fred Willard
actors in this. Yeah, Fred Willard, Steve Buscemi. I'll even give you Ray Liotta. I like Gene Smart as
Justin Long as Sheeny's brother.
Justin Long, I don't know where
he's kind of playing as like a very toned down version of the character he played in Yada Yada Make a Porno, whatever that movie was, Kevin Smith movie.
Zack and Miri
Make a Porno.
Okay, you're kind of making a good point. The very toned down version. Before seeing this movie, I looked at the cast list and I was saying, boy, what an amazing cast this movie will probably be. Well, I was thinking it could be something good. Mm-hmm. I go see the film, and no one was at their best. I can't think of anyone who really. Fred Willard, I'm a big fan of, and other than the
just having fun.
Well, that's an interesting point, Steve. Is this just a movie that's funny? Is that your only criteria? Is that it made you laugh? This movie was funny, so then it's a success. Are we being
but I didn't
too
find
harsh
it a
on
success on that level. I
didn't laugh.
wasn't laughing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll grant you that. I guess it's one of those things where you just have to click on whether or not it's going to be funny, and I enjoyed it in that respect. And,
did I
enjoyed every time Francois Dillinger was on the screen. I thought it was terrific. His lambasting of people on the payphones.
I don't remember that part.
Remember that?
No.
I remember lots of cigarette flicking.
The scenes where she's talking to...
It's actually hard to remember many of the details about the film. I think we saw this...
Well, when she's talking to Nick, there's what Nick will say, but then there's what she would like to hear, which is something that Francois would say. So basically, I guess the quick lesson is that if a guy clicks into the Francois Dillinger character and he says these things, then the girl, responds to that. It was funny.
I didn't find it funny, but I also I didn't understand. All right, so here's this girl, and it's Michael Cera sitting on the bed, and suddenly he switches characters, and he's talking to her like Francois, and she's responding because she likes the bad boy stuff, but it's still Michael Cera sitting on the bed. And does she see Francois? Is he just switching voices? Did it matter? I don't know, because
it's an attitude.
Did you guys were you guys like not decidedly not going to enjoy this film?
No. Like I said, I entered the film thinking, wow, this could be something good, and I just watched it fall flat, scene after scene after scene. Just, you can feel when a movie's working,
yeah, and
you can definitely feel when a movie's not working, and boy, was it falling flat.
Yeah. I got to agree. I was staring at it. I was just staring at the screen. The only time I laughed was Fred Willard when he gets wasted and he's just lying on the carpet staring at the carpet. And I was like, well, that made me chuckle, but it's mainly because it's Fred Willard.
But it's a moment.
Right. It's 10 seconds out of an hour and a half movie. Otherwise, I'm just staring at it going, why am I watching this?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No.
All right. I feel like it's like I keep thinking, man, I had a good time watching the movie. I thought it was very funny, and
what made you laugh exactly?
Michael Cera's demeanor, the way he says things quickly, his delivery. I just find it very funny.
I mean, he's got a lot. His character has a lot in the line for what he's willing to do. The lengths he's going to go for this girl. He's effectively going to destroy his life at such a young age, and I don't know why.
Well, I think what's funny is the fact that he's willing to let all that happen, and all of the worst stuff does happen, and that's kind of like the that's the fallout from these terrible decisions that he's made. And he's making these terrible decisions because he's a deranged kid. His mind has been split. He's got a Fight Club thing going on here with two different people.
No, I disagree. I don't think he has a Fight Club. If he had a Fight Club thing, or if it was more either taken more seriously or I believed in it more, maybe it would have worked for me. But I didn't get the split at all. I just felt like
I didn't buy a moment of the film, period. It felt very forced. It felt like perhaps it was a movie based on a book. And perhaps the book actually worked as a book, but as a film, it didn't work.
Yeah, I've never read the book, but I wouldn't after seeing the movie.
You're probably not a teenage girl.
No comment. I have my moments.
I would see it again because I enjoyed their the characters and their delivery, but it happens. People just don't connect on certain films as far as the humor goes. And Michael Cera is a certain type of humor.
Again, I think if he has people to work with that balance out what he's doing.
Despite the cast, which has a lot of good people, it feels very much like a budget production. It feels like it could have been shot for television. Even visually, there's nothing terribly distinctive about the film.
Yeah.
I think I'm assuming you guys didn't get hats?
Oh, I did not get a hat, Stephen.
Yeah, no hat, no youth.
No.
Would you see it if somebody paid you $10 to see it?
Why would someone do that? Unless they're a studio flack.
What if we gave you a hat? Would you go see it for the hat?
No.
See, that's it. I wouldn't.
Or for the hat?
No, not even for the hat. Not for the hat. Not for the $10. I wouldn't sneak into this movie. I won't rent it when it comes out on DVD. It's over.
Okay, so that's a 2 thumbs down and a 1 thumbs up on Youth and Revolt.
Well, wouldn't it be one digged it and...
Yeah, we digged it.
One digged.
So,
We didn't dig it.
And dig not. Should I wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
This takes about a half hour.
Yeah, it does. So thanks for joining us for this episode. We discussed Sherlock. Let me start over again.
Told you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We discussed Sherlock Holmes and Broken Embraces.
Almodóvar.
And Youth and Revolt. And be sure to check out the website at postmovieshow.wordpress.com. And if you have any questions or rants or nice things to say, we do like nice things. They can be sent to postmovieshow@gmail.com.
and again, if you have any thoughts as to where Irene Adler in Sherlock Holmes originates from, I'm all ears.
I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black from Boston Event Guide.
And I'm Michel, writing for both the Boston Phoenix and the Boston Herald.
And this is the Post Movie Show. Until next week.
Almodóvar.
Help, please. Help.